Councillor Sesford.
Yeah, I'd like to propose Councillor Hutchinson for chair.
Is that seconded?
Thank you. First of all, can I apologise? We're having Wi-Fi problems, and this would normally be live streamed on YouTube. But unfortunately, because of the problems, the signal keeps on going in and out, so we can't do it. But this will be recorded and will be on the Northumberland website for anyone who wishes to see what did go on. Well, yeah, we're going to try and get it fixed, but it's out of our hands. It's basically a Holiday Inn where the problem is. So they're trying to fix it, and we'll just have to play it by ear. Right, welcome everybody. The hearing is being live. It's not being live streamed. Was going to be live streamed. Participants' microphones must remain on mute unless invited to speak, at which time their microphones must be unmuted, then muted again when they've finished speaking. If there's any IT, you couldn't make this up. If there's any IT issues during the course of the hearing, whereby connection of the participant is lost, the hearing will be paused while efforts are made. It's a waste of time reading that, to tell you the truth. The hearing takes form of a discussion led by the authority, and no cross-examination by any party is permitted unless the authority considers that is required. Before we start, could everyone either turn their mobile phones off or put them on silent? Thank you. Introductions. First of all, my name is Ian Hutchinson. I represent the ward of Haltwhistle, and on my left we have
County Councillor Trevor Sesford. I'm the councillor for Hexham Central with Egham.
And on my right,
Councillor Trevor Sesford. I'm the County Councillor for Hexham Central with Egham.
okay. On my right,
County Councillor Alex Wallace, Sleekburn Ward.
and my far right,
Heather Bowers, Democratic Services, and I'll be taking a note of the proceedings.
and Melanie.
Melanie Bowman, solicitor with Legal Services, advising the committee.
We have another council member, who is reserve, and that is
Councillor Cliff Humphrey from Newton Ward and Blythe.
and
I'm Heather Gebby, the Senior Licensing Officer.
great, thank you. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Richard Arnott, and I'm a solicitor from a firm called Ward Hadaway, and I'll be representing the applicant this morning.
And on my right-hand side, we have a table of...
Good morning, sir. My name is Christopher Greenert. I'm a solicitor. I'm representing Northumberland Pub Company, who operate the Blackbird, and have filed an objection or representation about today's application.
Thank you.
Morning, Chair. My name is Charles Holland. I'm a barrister. I'm representing a company called Danieli Holdings Limited, and they operate a hospitality unit in Ponteland called YOLO.
My name is James Kemp. I'm a barrister and I'm representing a resident, Philip George Walton.
Right, thank you.
And my name is Jack Harvey Clark. I'm an acoustic consultant and I'm also representing Mr. Walton.
Right, thanks. Okay, first of all, sorry? Oh, yeah, my apologies. We have the applicant.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunamia. I'm the applicant of this application.
Thanks. And behind you?
I'm Douglas Dockery. I prepared a report for the applicant.
Right.
I'm Paul Holliday. I'm joint applicant with Sun.
Thank you.
I'm Christopher Sutton. I'm the architect for this project from Collaborative Design.
Okay, thanks. First of all, before we go any further, disclosure of members' interest? Nobody's interested? Good. Do you all know the hearing procedure? First...
Go through it for the purposes of...
Sorry?
Go through it for the purposes of the...
Right, yeah. Okay then. First of all, the officer's report, please, Heather.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, everyone. The Licensing Subcommittee hearing today is with regards to an application for a premises licence for Rialto, 1 Main Street and land adjacent thereto in Ponteland, Northumberland. The applicant has applied for the supply of alcohol, regulated entertainment and late night refreshment on and off the premises. There have been 102 objections received, covering all 4 of the licensing objectives, namely on the grounds of crime and disorder, public safety, public nuisance and the protection of children from harm, and therefore a determination is required by members today. In determining the application and having considered the report, all relevant representations and verbal submissions from persons entitled to speak, the subcommittee is required to make its determination in respect of the application at the conclusion of the hearing. In this case, the subcommittee may grant the licence subject to conditions consistent with the operating schedule accompanying the application, exclude any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, or reject the application if it's not possible to promote one or more of the licensing objectives. Members are reminded that they may only attach additional conditions in respect of those matters that are subject to the application and in respect of which a relevant representation has been made, and that they are appropriate and for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Members are also reminded that in determining the application, each objective is of equal importance. There are no other statutory licensing objectives, and therefore the promotion of the 4 objectives is always a paramount consideration, and all applications for a premises licence must be considered on whether the licence holder can demonstrate that the licence will not create any issues in relation to the licensing objectives. As a reminder, the prevention of crime and disorder relates to any crime, disorder or antisocial behaviour at the premises or related to the management of the premises. Public safety relates to the safety of the public on the premises, for example, fire safety, electrical circuitry, lighting, building safety or capacity and first aid. The prevention of public nuisance relates to issues such as hours of operation, noise emanating from the premises, vibrations, lighting and litter, and the protection of children from harm relates to protecting children from the activities carried out on the premise while they are there. The application itself was received on the 17th of June 2021 from Mr Richard Arnott of Ward Hadaway Solicitors on behalf of Mr Sonny Meyer for a new premises licence with regards to Rialto, 1 Main Street and land adjacent thereto in Ponteland. A copy of the application for a premises licence with the plan of the site and offered conditions to be attached to the licence is attached as Appendix B that you will have within the bundle. The applicant has applied for the licensable activities on and off the premises for the supply of alcohol and regulated entertainment from Monday to Sunday, 11 AM until midnight, and late night refreshment Monday to Sunday, 11 PM until midnight. All licensable activities have been applied for with individual relative non-stated timings as detailed within the relevant parts of the application. As mentioned earlier, 102 representations have been received from interested parties covering all 4 of the licensing objectives. These can be found in the report at Appendix C. Following the vast number of objections received and some of the comments within the content of the representations, the applicant requested on the 19th of July that the note be circulated to those parties concerned. This note, which can be found at page 41 of the report, was previously sent to all objectors along with the notification of the hearing, which was on the 30th of July. Further information received from the applicant with regards to a noise impact assessment, a copy of the current premises licence, a document with regards to the orchard, and 2 updated plans of the ground level and mezzanine level have also been circulated to all members and interested parties. These documents can be found at the back of the agenda bundle that was following on from Appendix C. Supplementary documents have also been received from Trinity Chambers on behalf of Daniele Holdings, from Apex Acoustics on behalf of Mr Philip Walton, and from John Gorton Partners on behalf of Northumberland Pub Company. All documents have been sent to all parties prior to the hearing today and will be referred to by the interested parties during the course of the hearing. Finally, following the decision of the Licensing Subcommittee today, if the applicant or interested party who have made a representation is aggrieved by the decision, they may appeal to the Magistrate Court within the period of 21 days, beginning on the day they receive formal written notification of the determination. Thank you, Chair. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Heather. Are there any questions to the officer from the panel? None? From the solicitor?
None.
Great. Any questions from the responsible parties? Richard or? No. None? None. Thank you. Right, we'll go straight into it. Richard, would you like to present the applicant's application?
Chair, members of the committee, can I begin by expressing our frustration at the way in which some individuals, deliberately we suspect, have sought to disseminate information about our application that is just false. Whilst it's not uncommon when you're making an application like this for there to be, shenanigans, I'll describe them as that, it really isn't on for individuals, particularly those with a commercial interest, to spread information that just isn't true. As an example, we saw a Facebook post, and this is Claire Gibbs of the 7 Stars. It's her Facebook. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, so I thought I'd share on here. 500 seated, 200 to 300 standing capacity, Hackney carriage, black cabs, taxi rank, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. 700 people on a Saturday night trying to park in the village or Darras Hall. Or will they find local estates to park in, live music until midnight? And that's just not true. That is quite disheartening when people are spreading gossip like that. And we were so concerned that we shared that Facebook page post with your licensing officers and discussed whether we were sort of in the realms of Section 158 of the Licensing Act, which is where you make a reckless or false statement about an application. We didn't quite get there, but we were. It just reflects how concerned we were. And we know as well that others have been spreading gossip about our application. But obviously this is an opportunity for us to set the record straight and make sure that you know exactly what it is that we're asking you to do. But to try and disseminate correct information, and at the suggestion of your licensing officers, we drafted the note that's been referred to by Heather. And you find that, in fact, twice in your agenda, page 41 and page 289. I don't know whether you've had the opportunity to read that note. I hope you have. But you'll see there that we've tried to set out our stall and make sure that everybody understands the reality of this application rather than what people might be deliberately spreading out there to try and traduce my clients and what they intend doing. So that document was circulated on our behalf, and we hope that it did to some degree redress the difficulties that we were experiencing about misinformation. And I mention that to you for 2 reasons. Firstly, as was presumably intended, it's caused a great deal of concern amongst the people living in the village, and I'm sure that that's what the purpose of that misinformation was. We spoke to one objector who said that had he known, he probably wouldn't have objected, the reality of what we were applying for, and that he'd relied on the Facebook post. So I think it's important to just get that out there. But another reason that we find it so distasteful is that the applicants have gone out of their way to try and be as transparent as possible and to explain to everybody who's prepared to listen what it is that they intend doing, what they would like to bring to Ponteland. In May, and before I was involved, they had a meeting with the town council, your licensing officers, police and the fire authority. Planning were invited but didn't attend. And the proposal was explained and discussed. And it was as a consequence of that meeting that the schedule of conditions that you see within your bundle, the conditions which are attached to this application, were drafted and came about. And those conditions were in fact drafted for us by the police. So they are the police's conditions, as it were, and that's why we refer to them in our documents as the agreed conditions. Now, not agreed with everybody, but agreed with the police. And as you know, the police have not objected, and neither have the licensing authority and the fire authority or EHO, which is obviously significant, or it's certainly significant to us. A second similar meeting took place with the Town Council on the 13th of July, again attended by Police, Licensing Authority and Fire Authority. And that was called at the behest of the Town Council, who I suspect were getting a little bit unnerved by what they were hearing, the gossip, and they just wanted reassurances from us. And we did our very best to give them those reassurances and to assuage any concerns that they might have had. I'm sure, though, that particularly those representing our trade objectives today will say, well, that's all well and good, but you've ignored the locals, and that simply also is not true. We haven't. We've been completely transparent, and we've gone out of our way to talk to anybody who wants to talk to us and to spread as much positive information about the applications we possibly could, because you need to remember that both Sonny and Paul live in the village. They are locals. So they've been talking to people from the very beginning and trying to make sure that everybody understands what it is we're up to. So, bearing that in mind, have you got a copy of the brochure that we've produced? I've got some nice fancy colour copies if you prefer them. That's it, yeah. If you can please turn, I'll use one of these, turn to that document. You'll see within the document two personal statements, and they are on page 3 and page 4. Perhaps you could just take a moment to refresh your memories and just scan through those 2 pages. Chair, shall I continue? Yeah. It's clear from what both gentlemen say in their document that they have invested a substantial amount of money in Ponteland, but also a significant portion of their lives, family life and working life too. Neither of them, and they've been at pains to express this throughout this process, have any desire to jeopardise the village, and that's because it's home. So it's really important to them that they don't do anything that upsets their neighbours, but also the existing business, or does anything that adversely affects the place in which they live. Rialto's has traded, the existing premises has traded for many years. On page 2, you'll see a little description of it together with some photographs. It is a 120-seat Italian-style restaurant, and they have no intention of altering the premises, those premises, in any way. It will remain as it is now. It is a successful business, and I think, we hope, it is well loved within the village. Now, if you refer, please, to page 7 in your bundle, you'll see a copy of the current Rialto licence. And from that, you will see that the premises can sell alcohol Monday to Saturday, 11 until midnight, Sunday, 12 till 10:30. And that has always been the case. I don't know when this licence was first granted, but the premises has been there for quite some time. There is no restriction on the time between which recorded music can be provided. And then live music, I think there's a typo there within the licence. It's described as like music, that must be live music. Can be provided to midnight, Monday to Saturday, 10:30 on a Sunday. In terms of conditions, though, the licence is bereft. So there is not, for instance, a requirement that alcohol is sold ancillary to a meal. So it could, under the terms of its present licence, operate largely as a bar if it wanted to. Immediately adjacent to the current premises is a piece of land upon which there was a house. And that house was called the Orchard, and it was last occupied, we think, in probably 1999. It's been empty for quite some time. It was bought by Sonny and his family in 2003. It was in a derelict state. I think there'd been a fire, and it had to be demolished. There were various plans for the site, but unfortunately they couldn't be realised for various reasons, and it is currently used as wasteland and a car park. If you have a look within our bundle, you'll see photographs of it, and that's page, if you bear with me. Where is it now? 11, I beg your pardon, thank you. I did smile to myself when I read Council's objection for Danieli's when it is described as the meadow. That clearly is not a meadow. It's a bit of a state, and we would like to do something about it. And the purpose of today's application is to enable us, subject to planning, which we still know we need, to construct what we describe as a new village square. And that will be known, just like the house, as the Orchard. If you can look at the document again, we've provided you with some artist's impressions of what it is we have in mind. And those are on page 6. As described on page 5, we've taken our inspiration from a place called Altrincham Market, which, as you might have guessed, is in Altrincham, Cheshire. And that's a small covered Victorian market hall. And the owners of that have restored it. And they've taken what used to be the market traders' kiosks and turned them into shops. And they're now occupied by lots and lots of small businesses. They have chocolatiers, the Great North Pie Company, coffee shops, all those sorts of things. They're all small businesses, but they're all fantastic quality. And they look out into a small courtyard, sort of a plaza-type space with tables and seating. I've been, and it's a fantastic place. It's a great idea. It's relaxed, family-friendly, and it also gives small businesses an opportunity to start. And Paul and Sonny would like to recreate that in Ponteland. Now, obviously, we don't have a Victorian market hall to move into. We're not that lucky. So we're being imaginative and creative, and we'd like to construct what you see within the brochure that you have before you now. Now, if you go to the plans which we've produced, please, which are on page 9. Middle top, you'll see entrance arch. Our visitors will enter through that arch between two trees. They're already there, by the way. There's quite a bit of trees which will be preserved, and I'll talk about the feel and the look of the premises in a moment. We're not calling it the Orchard by accident. That's the feel that we're going for. But our guests, our visitors, will enter through that arch. And then the entrance, which is also the exit, will be manned by a meter and greeter. And that person will be SIA registered, and they'll monitor numbers. We'll talk about capacity in a moment, but they will be making sure that we have the correct number within the premises. But they'll also be sort of the first line to make sure that anybody who doesn't quite fit with what we're trying to provide there doesn't get in, doesn't spoil it for other people. Because it's important that we create the right sort of atmosphere. All of our staff will be radio linked to one another. And as I say, those that need to be SIA registered will be. So moving around the site, you'll see a number of, if we start at street food, you'll see a number of units. And we'll create what we're calling Market Street, which will be cobbled, and that's directly in front of all of those retail units. There are 3 retail units to the right, and we're already in discussion with quite a few individuals who are very keen to take those retail units. Indeed, one of our objectors has said to us that if we do get the license, they'd be interested in taking one. But the sort of people that we're talking to, there's a discussion with a garden centre, there's an artisan baker, coffee shop, florist. We're also chatting to a vintage sweet seller. I know there used to be one in Ponteland. I don't know if they're still there. I can remember that from years gone by, but we're talking to, it's businesses like that, and also 3 food vendors. We also have 6 market stalls, and the sort of businesses that we anticipate that would be interested in them, and again, there has been a lot of interest at farmers market type businesses, you know, small retailers. And as I say, there's been lots of interest, and we could probably let those units out 3 or 4 times over. In fact, so much interest that we're thinking about converting one of the serveries that you see on the plan into retail. But on this plan, the plan that you have on page 9, there are 3 serveries. On the original plan, there were 4, there are 3. That may perhaps become 2. Certainly one of the serveries will specialise, and by that I mean it'll be a gin provider or Prosecco provider. There will be only one of the serveries, probably, that will be serving sort of traditional, you know, pub fare, pints, etc. And again, we're in discussion with the Volcard family, who own Newcastle Gin Company, and they're very interested in taking one of our units. We'll operate table service, and we're using an app called W8R. You scan it onto your phone, you order through your phone, and it's brought to your table. Now, you can go to one of the bars if you wish, but this is the way forward, I think, for hospitality. People are, you know, throughout the pandemic, we're all getting used to table service, and that's what we would like to do. We know that people prefer that now. You basically make your order through your phone, and it's brought to you where you're sat. And they do that at Altrincham as well, and it's a great way of, in addition, supervising your premises, because you've got staff floating around all over the place. Toilet provision. You'll see that on the left-hand side, and then above the gents, there's another plan. We have the ladies. Our maximum capacity, and again, I'll talk about that in more detail in a minute, it will be 350. That's what we're going to set it at. And I'll offer a condition to that effect in a moment. The relevant standard, BS 64, 65, we provide more toilets than are needed. There'll also be DDA compliant toilet and baby changing as well, just reflecting the sort of, you know, demographic that we're going to attract. You'll also see lots of seating. I did a quick count, and I presume I'm right, 152 seats. You will also see to the right of the red-lined area, family play area. That's a garden. And that came about, and by the way, the new plan, the footprint of the new plan is smaller than the original anticipated proposal. That garden area came about as a consequence of conversations with the Environment Agency. They were keen that we created a sort of a barrier between their wall, which is a flood defence, and our fence. Happy to do that, that's not a problem. And again, there's an archway from our premises through to the new garden play area. So we create that area, and that'll be a great area for people to come and relax in. What it also enables us to do is to plant. And what we're intending doing is planting 4 apple trees and 4 pear trees. Because apparently, the rule is if you've got 6 fruit trees, then you can be called an orchard. So we're creating an orchard. Lots and lots and lots of planting throughout, though. Bearing in mind the name, the place, it's a conservation area as well. We're very keen to make sure that it looks right. So we'll be preserving all of the trees that we can, and also you'll see tree centrepiece in the middle of the proposal. And that'll be new. Now, it is not we're not going to wait 40 years for a new tree to grow. I don't quite understand how this works, but it's what's called a petrified tree. So the base is wood, obviously, and then there's branches come up. But it'll be an enormous thing, and it'll look fantastic. It'll be a real feature, and will enhance the look of what we're trying to achieve here. It is not, by the way, going to be a container park. I know that that's been some criticism that the people have thought that we'll turn into the stack which you have in the city centre and other places as well. That's not the way in which we're going to construct this particular project, if you're kind enough to grant the licence to us. All of the buildings, as it were, will be wooden modular units. Be fabricated for this purpose. The toilets, they will be containers, but everything else will be made of wood, especially for this. They'll have glass fronts with a sort of Victorian style facades, but they look very attractive, and you'll see from the artist's impressions that we provided what it is that we have in mind. It's really important that the entire site looks right, so that we get the right sort of people and attract people to come and visit. And also, as I just mentioned there, we're in a conservation area, so that's important that we don't do anything to the detriment of that. So to that end as well, and I've already mentioned it, there's a mature cypress tree that will remain, other trees, but there'll be loads and loads of planting, internally and externally, to make sure that it looks right. And hopefully by the time we're finished, it'll look a great deal more like a meadow than it is at present. In fact, we had wanted to call it originally the Secret Garden, but unfortunately somebody else has nabbed that name, got to it before we did, so we've called it the Orchard instead. In terms of entertainment, no bands. We're not interested in that, and we've said at our meetings with the town council, and we've spoken to other people as well, no bands. We don't want bands. So when in Mr. Walton's experts report he shows a picture of a drummer, as if we don't know what a drummer looks like, we won't have drummers. We're not anticipating having anything like that at all. We're just not interested. And we've said that throughout. We won't be causing a nuisance to anybody by having bands on, like the Seven Stars does. And we understand there's a lot of concern about the music that they're providing at the minute, having bands outside. Not interested in that. We will have solo artists or duets, generally just to create atmosphere, but also occasionally as entertainment. Usually acoustic, but if they are to have amplified music, it'll go through our own sound system so that we can control it. We won't be allowing people to bring their own PA systems. We'll be creating around 10 to 15 full-time jobs and around 20 part-time jobs. And equally as important, we'll be giving small startups their first opportunity, showcase themselves, and perhaps from acorns, oak trees will grow. We want to encourage new businesses to come along and use the facility that we will provide and get themselves started. We anticipate investing around £400,000 in the project, which is, that's invested in the village, which is a substantial amount of money. So can we turn then to the application itself? In terms of Rialtos, we've preserved the times and activities that those premises currently enjoy and have committed to continue trading as a restaurant. However, in respect of the orchard, which we've described as the outside in the application, live music, such as we'll have, will end at 8:30 p.m. Monday to Thursday, and then 9:30 p.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a bank holiday. Again, in respect of recorded music, 10:30 Monday to Sunday. And remember the Facebook page saying that that would be midnight. That's just not right. That's there in the application, has been from the outset. This is not a music venue. We have absolutely no intention of creating a festival site. It doesn't look like a festival site. It's not going to be a festival site. That's not what this is about. And the times that we've applied for would obviously prevent us from doing that anyway. Not a music venue. With regards to the sale and consumption of alcohol outside, that would end 10:30 Sunday to Thursday and 11 Friday and Saturday. Now the application is, as you know, subject to voluminous conditions, the agreed conditions. And I'm prepared now to add a further condition, and that is that the maximum capacity of the external area be limited to 350. Now the conditions are within your bundle. I'm sorry, I don't know what if somebody can help me with the page number.
3738.
Now, you'll remember, as I've just a moment ago explained, these conditions were drafted for us, proposed to us by the police, and we were happy to agree to them. So, standard CCTV conditions, and there'll be CCTV throughout, internally, externally. Usual conditions so far as CCTV is concerned, no need to go through them. Challenge 25. Again, you would expect that of us, happy to give it. Staff training, obviously we'll agree to that. Condition 11, security. I've mentioned our meter and greeter, and we will have security staff, but that will be, that the number of people to be deployed in that role will depend upon risk assessments that we do, and that seems to us to be sensible, bearing in mind the nature of the premises, you know, how we propose running it, but we're happy to give that commitment. Oh, and by the way, those members of security staff will be employed by us directly. We're not going to get an agency in, so there'll be the right. Sometimes when you get an agency in, you might get a doorman who comes up from Leeds, or, you know, things like that. If you've got one of the nationals, well, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the people that we employ are known locally, become part of what we're doing, and because we think that's a sensible way, and that's as a consequence of experience of running premises in those terms. Condition 15, overnight security staff. That was commented on by a couple of objectors who presumed wrongly that the only reason that we were having overnight security staff is that we were anticipating trouble. That's not right. Because it's an open-air venue, you can't have, obviously, burglar alarms. That then means that insurance companies get a bit nervous. So in order to get past that hurdle, we've agreed to having overnight staff, just to make sure that we're properly insured and that there are no difficulties in that regard. But that's the only reason that that particular condition is there, not because we're anticipating trouble. Condition 19 as well, and this is quite an important one. Noise from amplified live and recorded music arising from regulated entertainment held within the designated premises shall be inaudible at the boundary of the nearest residential dwelling. We'll be talking about that condition, I think, at length in a moment. But again, happy to agree to that. Now that leads me nicely, I think, onto our noise experts report. As I indicated, Chair, I'm conscious of time. I don't want to take up anybody's time unnecessarily. I know there's a lot of people who want to speak. I don't propose going through the report because I know you've read it. I just want, Dr. Doherty, who's the author of the report, is here. He's more than happy to deal with any points that arise from your reading of the report. All I would like to do at this stage is to just draw you to page 7 of the report. And the last line before his conclusion on this basis, the noise from the premises can be considered inaudible. He then makes his conclusion. We are confident. Sorry, sir, do you not? Do you have the report, sir? All right. Yeah. As I was saying, sir, last line before we get to the conclusion, on this basis, the noise from the premises can be considered inaudible. He did his tests, he got his fancy machinery out, he did his recordings, and he is confident that we can adhere to that particular condition that we readily agreed that I've just described to you. As I say, he's here. If there's anything in that report that you're unsure of, that you'd like him to explain to you, I'm more than happy for him to do that. He's the expert, I'm not. He knows what he's talking about, so I can leave that to him. I would like him further on in my submission just to make some comments about the report from the objector that was served on us yesterday afternoon, but I'll leave that in a moment if you don't mind. Some other issues that have arisen that we know that the residents are concerned about. Parking, not a licensable issue, but I'll deal with it anyway, just to give you for information. Vast majority of our visitors will come on foot because they're going to be locals. And that being said, though, we've got 13 parking spaces already, but we'll be creating a further 23. So there'll be ample parking. We think that's more than enough. We also have nearby, about 200 yards away, the sports centre car park. And that has, we understand, or I understand, 100 free spaces 24/7. More than enough parking on site. And there really would be no need for anybody to park in residential streets or take up parking spaces on the estate nearby. More than enough parking. But I just do say as well, repeat myself, it's not really an issue for you today here when discussing licensing. And again, similarly, traffic. Now, obviously, some people will come by car, but you'll see on the plan, we have our own access road with a one-way system. One way in, you come off the roundabout, round, back of the buildings, and then out another way. And that we can manage easily. We're happy with that. We're in the process of getting a highways report done, and we're confident that that will help exacerbate any issues that might be experienced with other licensed premises elsewhere in the village. We know that YOLO, for instance, they don't have that capacity, and cars will park on the main road, causing tailbacks. That won't happen with us, and we can marshal that adequately. People will be dropped off there as well, and that will also be the road for deliveries. So visitors will be coming off the roundabout, not going onto it, which I think is something that some of the objectors were concerned about. We've also, in the original plan, we designated an area as a taxi rank. That was really a mistake. We shouldn't have done that, because obviously only you can designate an area as being a taxi rank, and that's really just a drop-off point. But again, advantage being it's our own road, so we can manage it. And we appreciate, obviously, with anything new, there's always a concern about antisocial behaviour, and that is obviously relevant. We're more than confident, bearing in mind the nature of what it is that we'd like to provide, that we won't attract troublesome people, because there's not really anything for them at what we want to do. We're also experienced operators, and we have more than adequate measures in place to deal with anybody who might be troublesome. But again, we're really confident that there won't be issues, or certainly not the issues that the residents are afraid of. We know that they are responding to the suggestion that this is going to be some sort of stack festival site, 800 people. It's not like that at all. We'll have our own security staff, as I've said, also extensive CCTV. So in terms of the proposal itself, I'm not sure that there's a great deal that I can add. I'll move on now to the objections. Now, Mr. Soderquist did tell me, or hinted to me, that if I came to a natural break, I'm happy to put my hand up and say, if you want a comfort break, that's fine. Or if you want to box on, either way, that's fine with me.
I think we're okay at the moment. If we may stop you mid-flow, but we'll try as much as we can.
All right. Mid-flow, is that a pun? Yeah.
Right, I've just been informed that the live stream started just after 11:15, so we're live now.